Hey YouTube, this is Evan Magician 34, and I've got a deck that I just had to share. It's really awesome. It's very much supported by the new set. So I'm just going to get right into it. It's plants, but it is not Dandy Warrior. Just to show you, you do not have to play Dandy Warrior to play plants. First off is 2 copies of Lone Fire Blossom. Pretty obvious choice there. We're going to go through the obvious stuff pretty quickly. 2 copies of Dandelion. Pretty obvious there were 2. 1 copy of Titanial, and 3 copies of one of the best little rares in the new set, Shining Darknesses, Cherry in Mado. Yeah, I know, looks kind of like a joke, and it's, cute, but that's the end of the story for most people. But the fact that it searches for 2 in Mados, and that's in Mado monsters, not just in Mado, so it can be Cherry in Mado, which is a 2-star plant tuner, which is just amazing. And plants have so many ways to take advantage of this, and we're going to use them all in this deck. It's a great effect. It's a fantastic card, a great first turn set. The only drawback is the things you search can't be used as synchro material monsters the turn you get them. But all that does is keep you from ramming it and then using it the very same turn. But that's not much of a restriction, really. And of course, it's dark, just like the original in Mado. And speaking of the devil, there is 1 copy of in Mado, just because you can theoretically get in Mado rammed, Cherry in Mado rammed, and you can get 1 Cherry in Mado and 1 in Mado and sync for whatever. You get the idea, and if they have 1 removal, or book or something like that, they better book this guy, because if they try to book the Cherry in Mado, you can draw 2 off him. So, lots of cool stuff. And the fact that it's dark also lets you run some really cool interactions, which we're about to get to. Also, 2 copies of Lord Poison. He's one of the best recruiters there really is, because unlike regular recruiters who have level and or attack power limitations, he doesn't. You can ram this guy into somebody, get Titanial out of the grave, and then use the Titanial to ram something, and the whole, all in one shot. He's really very good. The only thing he can't get is himself. But obviously that's not much of a restriction. I mean, he pretty much has to have it. I mean, if he didn't, he could just endlessly get himself now, couldn't he? And that's not very fair. Okay, there is 1 copy of Gigaplant. He's a good target for Lord Poison, especially when your opponent rams him during their turn. Just very abusable, especially with 2-star tuners, so you can use him to reanimate those guys, and you can obviously get back Lone Fire. Gigaplant's just great. Gotta run the 1 copy. Another tuner for the deck. Awesome card for the new set, Spore. He's a 1-shot per game. You can try milling him, but this is not a mill deck, and he works just as well in here. Obviously we run Mark of the Rose, so he's got all kinds of creative possibilities, and of course his reanimation ability comes back bigger, so top decking isn't as much of a crisis for this deck. 2 copies of Mystic Tomato, because you can search the Cherry in Mados and the other dark monsters in the deck. The deck actually runs 12 dark monsters, so lots of good stuff there. Sangan, amazing. It's another copy of Lone Fire. It can get you Spore or Dandy to discard to something else. You get the idea there. Plague Spreader, another great target, and you love to sync in this deck because you're going to be getting lots of extra monsters from your opponent. And it can even feed this guy. We do run 3 copies of Caius because, as you can already see, and you're going to see more, this deck is great at producing monsters that are good tribute fodder. And don't forget, Dandy, of course, does that, and Caius is one of the best removals around, because after all, My Body doesn't stop him, Stardust doesn't stop him. Just amazing, and he still hits so much stuff so powerfully. And he's still a good beat stick. And last but not least, Dark Arm Dragon. You have great control over the monsters in your grave. He's a very easy summon, and his effect is very good. You force them to answer him. He's not likely to survive these days in this environment. He'll get hit by something, but he'll force them to play out that answer. And that's mostly what he's for. Okay, we run 1 copy of Heavy Storm. 1 copy of MST. Obviously, we don't like back rows. We run 2 copies of just a fantastic card for this deck. Mark of the Rose lets you steal and sync away, or tribute, or one of a million other things. Very good, very high utility. Alright, also we run 1 copy of Mind Control. Brain Control, not such a must. But definitely Mind Control lets you steal the sets too. Steal that set Raikou, flip it, then you can sync it away, or what have you. You're going to sync one, you're going to tribute away, so it's very useful. We do run 1 copy of Gold Sarcophagus, plenty of things, situational, but yeah, another great way to search for Lone Fire or Heavy Storm. We can actually run Allure because we have enough dark monsters, so just one more way we can make the deck more consistent. Just 2 copies of book, but we got plenty of other control for monsters, so 2's all really that you need. And in a tight spot, it can even save your Titanial from, say, bottomless. So, good addition there. Another card that's going to save you from a lot of the problems that you're going to have, because you kind of want to sit behind one of your own monsters and play King of the Hill. We do definitely run 2 copies of My Body's a Shield. It can stop an untimely nobleman a crossout, and obviously it hits torrential, bottomless, all that other nasty business. So, it's becoming standard very quickly in this environment anyway. Okay, we do run torrential. There's lots of stuff we don't mind putting in the grave if we have to, so torrential is a no-brainer. Also works with Sandgam, Plague Spreader, Spore. Call. There's lots of stuff to call in this deck. If nothing else, you can always call Lone Fire, but you can also get Titanial. Sky's the Limit, it of course gets tuners. Yeah, call pretty much has to be in here. And one of the cards that goes so well with Dad, Allure, Mark of the Rose, Spore, etc., etc. Return from the Different Dimension. This is a win condition. Very good, and it can, if nothing else, give you materials to sync with. 2 bottomless, gets rid of that stuff you don't want to see. And one of my favorite ways to discard, very good in this environment, and doesn't get stopped by most of the answers your opponents will have, Karma Cut. And it reaches into their grave to hit other stuff. Also very effective against Infernities. Another great pick for this deck, and you have lots of stuff you don't mind discarding. So, just one more thing that helps it. And last but not least, Dust Tornado. Just a little bit more MT destruction, because once again, their back rows kind of scare you sometimes. So, just a great way to set yourself up, especially on turn 1. Okay, the extra deck, pretty straightforward. We got 2 copies of Stardust Dragon. Very good card still. Got Red Dragon Archfiend. 2 copies of Colossal Fighter, just a tremendous beat stick. Even though you don't have warriors, obviously he still doesn't die in battle, so those extra boosts don't matter that much. Thought Ruler Archfiend, you can drop an extra Colossal for him. This guy is pretty effective against not only Blackwings now, of course, but he's also pretty effective against the much-dreaded Dandy Warrior. He saw some more stuff than you'd think, gets around book, knock. I mean, he can help you press your opponent, which is kind of the point. We got 1 copy of Black Rose Dragon. Pretty obvious, and of course you can use his secondary effects in this deck. Life Transfer, your 7-star beat stick when it's not going to be Black Rose. Urbellum, situational, but still lovable. Goyo Guardian. Bryanak, the 2 obvious 6 stars. And one of the other gifts this new set gave us, which kills just about anything in battle and can even press extra damage on top of it, Splendid Rose. This is a great card. If you don't know what it does, look it up. But yeah, she's a great 6-star target. Usually comes right after Bryanak, and of course, she thrives on plants, and you can Lord Poison her back for some nasty situations. Also, Queen of Thorns, a good late-game control card, most definitely. Magical Android. And last but not least, of course, Ally of Justice Cataster. Okay, so that's the deck. And until next time, rate, comment, subscribe, and enjoy.